Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mitch Taco Bell. I'm your host for Tall Tales with Taco. Another exciting Tuesday evening. This is the day after Memorial Day weekend. I've got a lot of folks who post some really great stuff on Memorial Day weekend. As we all know, especially veterans, we appreciate the memory of those that served that are no longer with us, our brothers and sisters that paid the ultimate price or are no longer with us. And I always tell people when they're on the airplane, if they come see me Veterans Day, then they can wish me happy Veterans Day. But sincerely appreciate from the bottom of my heart all the folks that remembered and went out to the cemeteries and planted flags and great patriotic stuff like that. Just makes me proud to be an American. Especially in Texas, I see a lot of things going on. Unfortunately, I have to work every morning at 4 a.m. I get up and I go to work at 5:30 for a couple-hour brief, and then I go fly for a few hours. And it's just a good time in our company to be see the COVID receding and training picking up. So that's throughout the country. I think folks are going back to work. And speaking of work, one of the guys that I have tonight, Lynn Lowder, is a Marine, Vietnam veteran, Recon Marine, which if anybody knows infantry, you've got infantry, then you got recon. And those guys are the toughest and hardest of the best. Lynn is going to be on tonight because Lynn is one of those guys that believes in giving back and giving forward and paying forward and helping veterans succeed and become successful business owners in their own rights. And it's stories like this that I really like to propagate, put out on my podcast, because if we had more people that just took a moment to do something to pay it forward, a lot of our fellow veterans do. And that's what gets folks ahead in the game. I wouldn't be where I am if a Marine, Reb Stimson, hadn't taken a shine to me and helped mentor me through the steps to get on with a major airline. And as a Marine, I always appreciate that. And so I help pay it forward to my other Marines. But without further ado, I'd like to bring Lynn on. He is up in Missouri. Lynn, how are you doing?
Right here, Mitch.
How are you doing? Is the internet working? Can you hear me? Are we having issues again? Technical issues?
Yeah, Mitch, I am having a problem with my speaker staying open for some reason. Never happened before, but darned if it's not happening now.
So are you able to hear me or no? Probably not. Folks, we tried to do a little comm check. We always do this a few minutes before the show, and the internet was giving him just a little bit of trouble, but I think he ought to be able to get this figured out. Let me do this while we're waiting because
this thing. Can you hear me now, Mitch?
Yeah, I got you 5x5.
Okay, we're good. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Apologize.
No. You know what? This is I'm dealing with the grunt. I have to talk slow. I mean, come on. Just kidding, of course.
Doesn't have a doesn't have a bayonet trigger. I'm in trouble. You go ahead, sir, please.
Well, what did you go through? You were in college. You were a junior in college. When you left college, the safety net of college, to join the Marine Corps in 1967, when we were embroiled in a big giant war over in the Southeast Pacific. I mean, you knew you weren't going to get stationed in Germany or Okinawa. You were going to the war. Any thoughts behind that? I mean, what was the cause and that made you leave?
Sure. Well, I had a high school football coach named Bob Calvin, Coach Calvin. He was a Marine. We sort of had our boot camp indoctrination in high school football. This high school of about 400 students in East Central Illinois, and over 110 of us were out for football. If that gives you any idea. So the presumption was you needed to play football for Coach Calvin. That was it. I had also seen a recruiting poster of some Marines in a post office in a small downstate Illinois town. There, those guys are standing out there in those sharp-looking dress blues. That bored into my brain. So I always wanted to be a Marine, always, always, always. So I'm in my junior season at Northern Illinois. I'm playing safety. I'm starting, but I had made my mind up, Mitch, that I was going to wait and to play the last game of my junior season. I was going to withdraw from school and enlist in the Marine Corps. My wife, Sandy, she married me in 1968 when I was a Lance Corporal. She was a cheerleader at Northern Illinois, and she was the only person that knew my game plan. So that's exactly what I did. And then in 67, I find myself out at MCRD San Diego, like a lot of us did. And we're we're there and we're going, I guess I've put myself in a bit of a predicament. I better get to work here. So that's really what happened. I just wanted to be a Marine. And honestly, I wanted to go to combat. I wanted to see if I measured up. I wanted all of that. So the Marine Corps gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. It's I know Sandy's sitting here watching, probably going, "That's my husband. That's my man."
Yeah.
But you know, when you went, I've actually got a picture of this. 1967 Recruit Depot. There's the book from it. Could you see that? There's your what would you call that? A cruise book, or not cruise book, but your recruit book as a young guy. Oh, folks, I think I lost Lynn. Yes, I did. I lost Lynn. He's not staring at the computer in amazement. He is having some technical issues. So let me show you some pictures, though. If you guys can see this handsome guy, he's 6'7". 6'7", joins the Marines in 67, goes off to boot camp, and during boot camp, he gets interviewed by the first sergeant, basically selected to attend ECP, Enlisted Commissioning Program. What happened was, once he was in ECP, he was commissioned a second lieutenant, and then sent infantry, recon, and he gets over to Vietnam, and he becomes a special. It was a special operations where they would snatch North Vietnamese soldiers. And I wish Lynn was here to tell us about it, but I've got. Let's see if this works. Lynn, are you back?
I'm back. It kicked out on my end for some reason. I'm actually at Whiteman Air Force Base, over where the B-2s are, and I'm wondering if we're getting some kind of override here in the background. There's a lot of activity here right now.
No, I can't hear anything. You're good. I know the B-2's out there, and also, by the way, the B-29 is unlocked. If you go up in the wheel well, there's no lock. You can actually crawl up in there and then tour. Because you know how I know? I spent a week there. I did that.
It's a great place.
Yeah. Anyway. Hey, let's show you here. Look at this guy. Tell us about this guy, this young guy here.
That was before my very first patrol at First Force Recon out at Anwa Combat Base. When you went to First Force and you were going to be a team leader, you had to do 3 patrols with 3 separate team leaders who were experienced, and it didn't make any difference what your rank was. So all of the guys that checked me out, I was a young young lieutenant there at that point, but the guys that took me on patrols were all outstanding Marine NCOs. 1 was a sergeant, 2 were corporals, and they evaluated me. And if I had not have met their evaluation, I wouldn't have been assigned as a team leader. Really? I love that. Absolutely. And I love that. I love that.
Well, what training did you get prior to that to be able to get up to snuff to be able to pass that first go around?
Sure. Well, when I was in California, I'm a Mustang, Enlisted Commissioning Program. So I managed to get orders when I was on hold, waiting orders to OCS, to Recon Replacement School down at Camp Horno, California. And I got the secondary Recon Marine MOS. I was hoping, Mitch, that if things worked out, if I got to Vietnam, maybe, just maybe, because I had that secondary Recon MOS, maybe I might be able to get to Force Recon. And with that as a preamble, I have to tell you, I went over to Vietnam in a whole 707 full of second lieutenants. The war was really heating up. This was November 68, December 68. Half the plane went up to 3rd Marine Division, half went to the 1st Marine Division. Of those in the 1st Marine Division, we went up there to the headquarters. We're sitting in a great big Quonset hut. In walks this Marine captain, and he turns right around and he says to this group, I need 3 volunteers for recon. I held my hand up with 2 other guys, and a buddy sitting next to me, Bob Lamb, who was from Virginia, also, he was in my OCS class and a Mustang. He tried to pull my hand down. He said, "You idiot, you're going to get killed." So we went outside, and I was the first guy he talked to. He said, "Tell me your background." I said, "Sir, I'm a Mustang. I had the secondary Recon MOS as enlisted Marine." He said, "Good, you're going to First Force." It was that. That's the way it was.
And what were the different branches? So you had First Force, you had second, third. What?
Yeah, in country, yes. At that point in time in the Marine Corps, there was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Division Recon. That would have been the reserve. But in Vietnam, 2nd Force Recon was Lejeune. 1st and 3rd Force Recon were in Vietnam. 3rd was up near the Z. We were where we were was southwest of Da Nang, about 26 miles, and we ran all the way. Our patrols ran all the way to the border. We were way out there. So that's the way it was. That's the way it was then.
So for the layman out there, you've got infantry, which door kickers, tough guys. Yep. Then you have recon. Then you have force recon, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You had battalion recon, 1st Battalion. They did the closer in work towards Da Nang in that area. And up north, there was also 3rd Recon Battalion. So you really had 4 recon units. 1st and 3rd Force, 1st and 3rd Recon Battalion. When I was there, Major Simmons had us going way out. So far out, in fact, that we had to have Army aviation assigned to us. We needed single rotor helicopters because of the lack of large enough zones. You could set a twin rotor bird down out there and get a team in the into the area. So we were out there a good ways.
So if I remember right, I had a cartoon years ago, and it was a 4-square cartoon. And in the one block, it showed this infantry guy, and he's sitting in a foxhole, and it's raining. He goes, "This really sucks," in the caption. And then you see this recon guy, and he goes, "Oh, I love how much it sucks here. And it's raining harder." And then you see this force recon guy, and the water's up to his neck. Snake's about to bite him. He goes, "God, I love how much it sucks out here." And then you see this pilot flying overhead, and he's looking down. He goes, "God, I bet it really sucks down there." So you guys were out in the dirt. And what was your time span for an average mission? I mean, a week, 2 weeks? Could you survive that long?
Most of them were 4 to 5 days on average, and some of them were direct action missions. So if things went well, you would get into an area, work your way in, maybe 2 or 3 days. You would do what you had to do and be out of there. Those were prisoner grab missions, which we had from time to time. Those could get pretty hairy. And as you would absolutely anticipate, the old saying about spec ops is 2 ways in, 2 ways out. No matter how much you would rehearse, and we would rehearse a lot, the actual security of the zone, where the grab was going to go on, who was going to grab who, how was it going to work. But once the old proverbial hits the fan, then you fall back to your training, and you have got to respond and react. And that happened a few times too. We had some great Marines. These guys were gamers, all of them. Good people.
Here's a picture of you guys.
Yep, that's it. That's my crew. Those guys that I'm looking at there, my guys, Kenny Harrington, Bowman Stroud, Doc Andrews, on my military left, on the right here, are corpsmen. These were good Marines. I think the oldest of them was 19,
Right.
and I was 22. I was an old guy.
Oh no, Pappy Boynton. But what kind of stuff? I mean, did you guys do you would eat rice and fish heads, or I've heard stories about to blend in to get the sweat stinking like not to smell American.
Honestly, Mitch, we ate sea rations when we were out there. But when I say that, I'm telling you, we lived on one can of the meat, the heavy sea rat, and then we would typically have a can or two of peanut butter, and that was it per day.
Really?
Yep. We all look like greyhound dogs. I'm not kidding you. Because where we went heavy on ammo. I would much prefer to go with an overage of ammo than an overage of food. So we went heavy on ammo and pretty heavy on water too. Although sometimes where we were in the mountainous areas, we could actually drink stream water. We're talking up high now. This wasn't stagnant water. This was moving water, and it worked out fine. So believe me, we were lean. I look back at those pictures. I cannot. I'll have to tell you offline how we used to describe ourselves.
I was going to say, it'd be really horrible. You're sitting there on the side of the trail, all camied up, all foliage up. You're waiting to grab some guy, and all of a sudden your stomach goes, rawr, and the dude looks down like, what?
Everything was puckered up, Mitch. I want to tell you, everything was puckered up.
Well, I read your citation for the Silver Star. You mind talking about that particular mission?
We all just did our respective jobs. It was one of those things where we had rehearsed, and I was out there with Bill Peters, who had played defensive end for San Francisco State, and I played safety. Honestly, when it comes, there's taking somebody at long distance and shooting them. That's a bit more sanitary. I mean, war is war, and people got to do what you got to do. And then, get a little closer where it's pistol action. But getting right up in somebody's face and grabbing them and taking them by force is a whole different deal with a human being. Because
how many guys would you have on a mission? 5, 2?
In that particular mission, we had 10. It was a combined mission. We knew we were going to be interdicting a large, heavily traveled trail, a high-speed trail it was called, out there near the border, and it was. So we basically set off Claymore mines, Mitch. We had security left, security right, and we had these little small squad radios and just working with clicks to communicate with one another. We had all this rehearsed out. And this guy was being portaged, believe it or not, like a cane pole between two guys. They had a little sling, and this guy was an officer. I think he might have been professing illness, so he'd have a few guys hauling him down the trail.
Right.
But once the crap hit the fan, man, he was running like Jim Brown. He was running. He tried to get away like a pro football halfback, which didn't work. But at any rate, what happened was as a result of that, and when we got out there in the middle of the trail to get him where he was coming from, there was a whole bunch of people out there that were not happy. So we had to go to work and secure the area, and that's really what that citation was all about. And then basically subdue this guy and drag his hind end up a 45-degree angle for an awful long time.
This is the guy that was the officer?
Yep, captain. He was a captain in the NVA Army. But I want to tell you, I developed an appreciation for how much strength wells up in a human being when they really feel like it's life and death. And this guy fought like crazy. The African American, the Black Marine next to me, Kenny Harrington, who was my point man. We're still very close in touch. My best friend, and Kenny's from Brooklyn. He is one tough guy, and we could not knock this guy out. We had hit him with a couple syringes to basically knock him out, but I'm telling you, it didn't work. So we tried to physically knock him out because he was trying to. We had him taped up, but he could still, create sounds like like that,
Right.
And we could hear these guys coming up our backside. So I just, Kenny and I to this day, Mitch, talk that I wish I could shake that guy's hand because, man, that guy was a gamer. He was a fighter.
And did you guys get him out?
We did. Yeah, we
did. And how far would you have to go for an extraction with bad guys chasing you up the trail?
We basically had secured a ridge line up behind us, and we had left behind 3 guys up there to secure that area, because the top of that ridge line we could actually set a 46 down and get out of there. But the press of these people were on us so much, we didn't have time. So Kenny and I basically, for a while there, it was just us and a bunch of these guys coming on to us. So we had to fight our way out of that. We did. Got up there to where we could reconnect with the remainder of the team. And then basically I directed them off into a 360. And by then, when we triggered the grab, Mitch, I had sent a signal to the rear, send the 46s now.
Right.
So we had 46s coming, and we had a bird dog above us. So I was working the trail with Phantoms, with F4s.
Right.
And then we had the gunships on station circling us. And then the bird came over us and dropped the spy rig. And we pulled this guy out on the spy rig. Then we did another extract on the guys up on the ridge line. Got everybody out, thank God. And we got this guy out. But I have not just him, but I have the utmost respect for the NBA Army. Those soldiers, those guys were professionals. They were hard as nails. In a phrase, they walked and came down, walking basically hundreds of miles just to get a chance to kick our butt. And
wow.
You have got to give those guys all credit in the world. They were committed. They were in the game, and I do. They were
tough opponents.
They've got to be right up there with the toughest adversaries I think our country has ever faced. Ask China, because China came after them after we'd pulled out, came across the border, and they sent China back across their border limping. Well, these guys
I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. They can fight.
You're just talking about spy rigs. I got this photo right here.
Yeah.
That's a spy rig. So how do you hook up to that thing?
That's my team, actually. And the guy with the big hind end on the right there, bottom right, that's this hillbilly right here. I'd recognize that butt anywhere. This was pictures from a video that we had to make for Headquarters of Marine Corps. They wanted to see this thing in action, so to speak. So essentially, it's a strap made from risers, the parachute rigging,
right,
Mitch, that you have. That's actually riser material, 3 layers sewed together, and D-rings spaced along. And then we had straps that we Ranger straps, really, and we carried butt packs or ass packs. We didn't carry rucksacks. We had all our weight around our waist, so we could be as mobile as we could be. So we would pull those straps down, hook them around our legs, and we had a Swiss seat in the back that snapped into 2 D-rings on our rig, and that D-ring then snapped into the one on the spy rig. The very bottom there, you got a radio operator, and then you got the team leader, and the team leader is actually talking on a Prick 25 directly to the pilot, FM radio. And so we would be letting them know when we were all hooked on, and then we would tell them go, and they would move straight up. They would have to go straight up so as not to drag you through the canopy.
Sure.
If you could actually bring the bird down, that strap was that strong. So our hats go off, and my hat goes off in particular to those incredible pilots and crews that were hovering up there above us, just getting peppered with enemy fire. And
I got a
it was
picture here with two Cobras giving you some protection and
That's it.
the 46 guys stringing you out.
That's it. It's exactly the way it went. They go up to about, I don't know, 2,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
And you'd be flying there just hanging out, flying in the wind. It went, it went
You're
from,
like Superman.
yeah, absolutely. It felt like the analogy, it's almost like what I would anticipate a kitten would feel like when the mama kitten grabs him by the scruff of the neck and pulls him up.
Uh-huh.
Except I sort of felt like it was the hand of God grabbing us by the back of our shirts and pulling us out of the soup.
Well, would they winch you up through the hellhole?
No.
Or you
No.
just sit there and flew until they could drop down,
For
unhook,
miles.
run
Yeah,
in the back.
Yep, you'd fly for miles till they could get back to a safe place, and they could hover that bird down till the bottom two guys touch, and then they roll the bird forward and down so that the next two could touch their feet on the ground, and then the next two, and then they would move off and sit down entirely. Then we would unhook and then get inside the 46 and take it on from there. It was an exhilarating ride. I've got some pictures around here somewhere I'll have to send you. But
who came up with this? Who came up with this brilliant idea? I mean, this is really awesome.
Yeah, tremendous Marine. His name is Roger Simmons. He was our commanding officer at First Force, and this was his baby. He invented this and brought it and fixed it up. Our riggers and we had, we still were jump qualified. We had parachutes and stuff. So our riggers with him sewed this thing together according to his specifications and design. We tested it down at Hill 34 by flying around low first and then a little higher. He did all this, and to this day, Mitch, Major Simmons, he retired a colonel. He was one of the first team leaders when First Force was stood up in 57. He was a really outstanding Marine, tough as nails, had been to that Royal Marine Exchange tour that we have with the boys in England. He was just one hard guy, but a good man, totally professional. And to this day, he has never gotten credit. And I would, without exaggeration, every one of our 6 teams was saved at least once by that spy rig. And my team, at least 3 times I can remember off the top of my head. It was the difference maker. God bless Roger Simmons. And, and I say that, how it is in the Marine Corps with the crews the support that we have, those 46 pilots and crews. And I want to give credit to the Spooky Air Force Spooky gunships. Those were all we had at night when we were under fire, and that happened too. And they would be on station above us, firing a cone of fire around us on our command throughout the night until the morning. And they would come, and one bird would stay for an hour, another one would come on. We would take a strobe light, wrap a poncho around our arm, turn the light on, it would shoot a beam straight up. The NVA couldn't see it laterally. The bird could see it, and they would lock in on that light and create an orbit, and then they would start firing, and they would constrict that cone down to as close as we could reasonably get it, and keep these guys off of us until daylight. And we heard, frankly, these pilots would come on station. We heard that they were minimum lieutenant colonels, most of them colonels in the Air Force. So these are older dudes who had been around. And honestly, it was like your father talking to you. Seriously. Yeah. The assuring voice up there. And it would be, all right, son, don't worry. We got you right up here. If anything moves, you tell me and we'll get them off of you. And they did. They did.
Well, do you think the word ever got back to the MVA? I mean, they watched their friends fly away. Did they ever get word back going, you don't want to mess with these guys?
Well, the other way around, Mitch, honestly, we knew it was a fact that there were bounties on our heads, bounties on the SOG people and bounties on the SF people. So one of the challenges we had, SOG, the Army SOG units, they were actually cross-border, and they would dress up in NVA uniforms and carry AK-47s. One of the reasons that we wanted to carry AK-47s, but we were not allowed to do it, we wanted to, and that is because we were so far away, so far out, that once you fire that M16 rifle, if you have to fire it and contact is made, every NVA within hearing distance of that weapon knows right off the bat, there's probably 6 of us and how many of them, and they would come running. They would come. So you needed every advantage you could get. We could never get the powers that be up on top to go with our recommendation. Fortunately for the Army, the SOG boys, that's what they did. And you need every single edge you can get out there. So
did you guys have any Kit Carsons with you or no?
We did, actually. We had there were 2 that were signed down to us. One was a turncoat NVA captain. The other guy was VC. Mitch, I would never trust a turncoat being a point man or on my team with me. Never. Give me a solid American all day long. A good, well-trained Marine. Kenny Harrington was the best I'd ever encountered. I just wouldn't do it. Wouldn't trust them. So a couple of guys did, and one in particular had a spectacular result on a patrol. But if they turncoated once, my gut would be what would happen if you ever got in a tight spot again. I would not trust my team, my guys, to that kind of a situation. Wouldn't do it.
Right. That makes sense. And so you did 1 year in Vietnam, and then where'd you go from there?
Went back to Camp Lejeune, and they had tryouts for the Quantico Marine football team, believe it or not. So, at this point in time, I'm a reserve officer. Most of us were, and thinking about what am I going to do afterwards. So told my wife, Sandy, we're still married, by the way, but she married this knucklehead 53 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy. It's all her. She was the cheerleader at Northern, and she married me when I was a hard charging Lance Corporal and stuck with me all those years. But now we're back, and so I said, heck with it. I'm going to go out there and try for the Quantico Marines. If I make it, we'll go up and play football in the fall of 70, and then in 71 early we'd be out. So I went out and ran a couple of wind sprints, somehow managed to still spin a pretty good 40, and got orders to Quantico and played safety up there for the fall of 70. Met some really good football players, actually, pro, semi-pro, big schools, small schools. Most guys had seen combat. We were quite a coaching challenge, I think, for that head coach. If our attitude was good, we could play with anybody. But sometimes the mojo comes and the mojo goes. Most guys, a lot of our heads were still back in Vietnam, where our guys were when we left them. And this was a game.
I'm surprised with your experience and being an officer, you didn't get detailed to head back again, sucked into Vietnam again.
This was, let's see. Well, when I was in country, Mitch, the Marine Corps changed their policy, and the tours went from 13 months to 12 months. Everybody had the notion, the vibe was, we're pulling out. We're going to get out of there. So at any rate, played that fall, and then I was thinking about options, thought about running patrols for the CIA. I went up and interviewed with them, cross-border stuff. Whole other story. I actually interviewed with the Israeli Army.
Really?
Yep, I sure did. 6-day war. I loved how those guys operated. I thought, man, if you're going to commit.
Yeah.
And they've been fighting for 66 years, for God's sake. So I went up there and interviewed with this guy. And long story short, he heard me out, and he said, I got to ask you a question. He said, are you a Jew? And I said, no. Is that a problem? He said, actually it is. He said, just the way we operate. He said, you need to be a Jew to be in our army. He said, but thank you for your interest. He said, a couple things. It would not be good for us if the word got out that we were recruiting active duty military here in the U.S. Said, number two, somebody took your picture when you came through that gate out there, and it wasn't us. And he said, and number three, lastly, you need to be a Jew. But he said, there's lots of other ways you can support us. Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, I have kicked in some bucks here and there for them over the years. But Mitch, I greatly admired the way they fight. they're in a fight for their life.
Oh,
so, if you're going to go to war and go to win. So
oh yeah, they work hard.
I
I read a fantastic book recently, last few months, about the creation of the Israeli Air Force and how they recruited those guys in the United States, all these World War II guys, fighter pilots, brought them over. They got all these Messerschmitts, how they got the Messerschmitts down. So, here's a Nazi airplane the Jews are using to fight Arabs. I mean, it was great. And then they got other airplanes through devious means. They worked hard and they made it, which is incredible. Hey, I do have
back you to the wall.
I have a you went on to like I&I duty or something, didn't you? Because there's a picture of you doing an inspection. I got a picture of you doing an inspection there.
Well, that was okay. I did a 2-year tour at Subic Bay at a guard company, and then I went. That's at Subic Bay right there. That gentleman to my left there, small Marine right in front of me, is Colonel Ed Snelling, Navy Cross recipient in Korea. That guy, he was a full colonel, and he was first class PFT in the flat belly group. Of course, he was flat belly too. Everything with a racket, but it was tennis, squash, or even handball. He won the base championship. Colonel Snelling, what a great guy. And this was in Subic Bay. That's in Subic Bay too. Colonel Cuppy, the XO behind me, and that was Lance Corporal Wooford. What a good Marine he was. So we had 2 years there. Our first child, Kathy, was born in Subic. And then from there, I went to Okinawa to 2-9, had a rifle company. Oh, this was, everybody should do an honor ceremony for a tin horn dictator in their experience. and I was able to have that happen. That's Ferdinand Marcos.
And that's you in the background.
It is. We were standing, I'll tell you, it was terribly hot. You see that guy, that Navy officer right there in front? Okay, yes. He's a nice guy, but this thing was on and on and on in the heat. Out in front of us there is this big circle it's on a grassy area. Half of the audience were survivors of the Bataan Death March, Filipino, the other half Americans. So I went up there and had an inter-service honor guard, Navy, Army, all of them. We all got high and tights. We all got our spit shines, the whole 9 yards, and we rehearsed. I want to make sure this went right. So at any rate, we're out there. It's now about an hour and 15 minutes, Mitch. I'm not kidding. We are soaked in sweat. And comes in the end of the ceremony, and that Catholic priest gets up there to give the benediction.
Right.
Man, it went on and on and on. And I got that sword there, that ceremonial sword. You can imagine what I was thinking about doing with that about this point. It's just things you remember. But he had declared martial law. So if you'll notice that picture, my cover is down like it's supposed to be, but I'm actually scanning out here in case somebody would have risen up that I could see and level a pistol. I actually had it in my mind I was going to tackle him, and right in front of that little stand he's behind, that podium, was a granite wall about 3 feet high. And I had in my mind, if I had to, I'd try and tackle him and push him up against that wall. There was a lot of bad feelings about President Marcos in the Filipino community. So that was the beginning of martial law, and it went on several years after I left. But at any rate, just part of the history of the whole deal.
Oh yeah. So you go on to become a JAG and a trial attorney, and you do a really good job for the defense, and the Marine Corps says, I don't think we want you anymore. And you end up going out. Were you a defense attorney out in First Civ Div? How did you?
Well, when I was in the Marine Corps, because I was a major when I got my law degree. So when I went to my command there at Quantico, the junior lawyers had more trial experience at that point than I did. So I was chief trial counsel, prosecuting for half the tour, chief defense counsel for the other half. So they started me in prosecution, but I treated that crew just like I did a recon team. I got all these guys again and said, look, I got some things to learn, and you guys better start teaching me. so I know what I'm doing in that courtroom, and I can support you better. There's some good guys. So long as you're winning cases on the prosecution side, when the military brings these cases, they're not bringing a guy to get a not guilty.
Right.
So if you're ringing up the victories over there, everything is going great. You start getting acquittals on the other side, not looked upon too fondly. That's just the way it was. So sorry.
Who was the guy that they modeled A Few Good Men off of, and the circumstances behind that?
Yeah, Walt Bansley was one of the three guys that worked for me. There was Bill Hooks. He's now a judge in Cook County, great guy. There's Walt Bansley, who became a civilian attorney. He retired as lieutenant colonel, and he is actually the character upon which the Tom Cruise's personage there in A Few Good Men, that was based upon what Walt Bansley did in a murder case down at Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico. And then we had Eddie Burnett, who had played football for the Naval Academy. He was captain in the Marine Corps. He got out and was the head chief public defender for Cook County, Illinois. Mm-hmm. So Walt stayed in after I got out. He was still in, and he got detailed down to this trial at Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico, and it was a murder case. It had to do with the blanket party, where a guy gets thumped for whatever reason. Right. You saw some of that in the movie, but Walt heard that the Commandant of the Marine Corps had flown down there with his JAG, and this is true, and had gotten all of the staff NCOs and officers in the base theater, I believed, and talked very directly about the fact that we don't have blanket parties in the Marine Corps. In other words, shut up, in so many words.
Right.
So, and I knew the commandant. I knew who this guy is, and he's a good man. It just was an emotional time, and somebody needed to tell him to just, go take a walk and cool your jets, and we'll work this out. However, Walt Bansley subpoenaed him for making a case out for jury contamination in that trial.
Did it work? And did it work?
It did for a while. But for Walt, they had a thing called individual military counsel. You could be requested by a Marine anywhere in the world that was undergoing a trial, and if you were reasonably available, the command had to cut you loose. So Walt was developing a reputation as a very fine defense counsel, and Marines had heard about him, and they were putting in IMC requests for Walt. And that's what happened here. So Walt had been traveling around in various places, so expense accounts and things of this nature. Well, CID, I think NIS, they audited every travel record he told me that they had, just trying to find something, and they never did. He ended up successfully retiring and has tried a number of capital murder cases. Walt's a really good guy. The point of it is, Mitch, the point of it is, our duty was to defend those Marines to the best of our ability. We're not there to make out the government's case. That's not our responsibility. Right. So I'm very, very proud of the guys that I served with. They were good men, good Marines, good officers, good leaders, and darn good attorneys. And they did their job. They did their job and did it well.
But did he ever get General Gray up on the stand?
I ended up on the board of the Marine Military Academy with General Gray, by the way. We didn't go into that case.
I'm sure he probably wants that to be gone.
He's a good man. Legendary Marine. But, this was at a time in early 80s there when, from where I sat, I thought we were being unduly harsh on some of our junior enlisted guys in that command, guys and gals, and stuff that when I was playing football there in 70, there were things there in 80 that were going on that wouldn't have raised an eyebrow, honestly, an eyebrow. So, I weighed in a couple times with the SJA on my views of things. So it was time for me to go to Chicago and be a civilian lawyer. And so that's the way it worked out. You know what I miss most in the Marine Corps, Mitch? I miss Marines. I miss those young Marines that come in and do the heavy lifting in combat. They're so full of fire and pea and vinegar and the stuff that they do. I miss all that energy. Some of the hilarious stuff they pull. That's what I miss. They're the heart of the Marine Corps. It's not the generals. It's not guys like that. It's these young enlisted Turks that come in and just they're great. That's what I miss.
Well, we all have a good saying. I miss the clowns, but I don't miss the circus.
Yeah. Oh.
And especially I see the direction that the military is kind of going into, this kinder, gentler, huggy, whatever that they're doing now that would get me banned on Facebook again. Oh, by the way, I got banned on Facebook last week. Last week, I believe.
Did you?
I posted.
Salute.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I'm trying to be apolitical. I put a little stuff every now and then, but I had an old video from 2005 of these Brits, and they're running in their compound, and they're singing or lip syncing to "Is This the Way to Amarillo?" or "Is This the Road to Amarillo?" Is this the way to Amarillo? And it was a takeoff on some actor that did this deal over in the UK. So these guys did it, and it's a one-shot deal. Well, it goes, "You're in violation of our community standards, and we're banning you for 24 hours. Well, I had my podcast that night. So, of course, I couldn't do my podcast with David Hoffmaster, who was fantastic. I could put it on YouTube, but I couldn't put it on Facebook because of that.
Yeah.
It's just some of the stuff I see in social media world, in communications world, and what I see happening within the Marine Corps and the military in general. There was a great ad that came out from the Russians, and the Russians showed these tough guys getting out of the rack, and they're doing all their stuff. And then it shows a bunch of Air Force officers walking around in high heels so they could understand what women go through wearing high heels. I'm going, this is fodder for our enemy to look at how weak we are. But no, I
absolutely,
I get it. And it's just I'm kind of glad I'm out of the circus. I miss the clowns. I miss hanging out with all the guys. I definitely miss hanging out with all the guys. And that was a whole reason volunteered to go to Iraq, and as the assistant air boss over there in TQ, I ran this airfield with a bunch of other Marines, and we had a great time. It was just an all-encompassing deal that enjoyed, and I tried to explain to my wife, why would I volunteer to go to war? She just had a baby. Actually, I lied. I told her I got involuntarily recalled, and she found out that she read an email that said, "Hey, Jack Wagon, I'm volunteering for this, so I don't want a purple hat job. I don't want to be at MacDill on the midnight watch officer. I want to be in Iraq with Marines." And she's like, "You volunteered." Well, after I survived, came home, I started dropping hints about, "Hey, thinking about going to Afghanistan." She goes, "Okay, fine, go." I'm like, wow. So I went to Afghanistan, and then my buddy calls me up and goes, he starts asking all these questions, and then he goes, "Hey, would you be our advance party to go take the boss over to Afghanistan for this 2-star general he was working for?" And I go, "Yeah," thinking, "When do you want to go? September, October?" This is May. And he goes, "No, I'll have this is on Thursday." He goes, no, he's calling me on Thursday. On Friday, he goes, "I'll have tickets FedEx to you on Saturday.
Whoa.
And you'll arrive on Sunday. You'll check in the Marine Annex." I was in the Commandant's old office because they'd moved. So I'm in the Commandant's office there in the Navy Annex. That was my office. Okay. And we put together, because we have VTC, secure VTC and stuff. We put together this 30-day trip for this general and General Stone. And then I went back. But when I asked my wife, I go, "Hey, honey, hey, I'm on the phone with TA. He wants to know if I can go back to Afghanistan and help him out for a little bit." "For how long?" I go, "Like 30 days, short trip." She goes, "Sure, when?" I go, when are we going? Like in September?" "No, you leave on Monday." "Oh." "Honey, I'm leaving on Monday for 30 days. She's like, "Yeah, sure. Okay." I've got a battle axe, man. She's awesome. She wasn't a military wife, but she turned into a great one.
That sounds, she must be. Well, she's a Marine wife. That old saying, right? The only thing tougher than being a Marine is being married to one.
And God bless the spouses that took care of us and ran the house when we were gone. And this is why I got her right there. Look at that.
Oh,
You
yeah,
wearing
there
those
you
dress
go.
blues? You wearing your dress blues? I think she dug my
Man.
dress blues when I was a shell of a man I once used to be, young and tough. But, what the hell?
Yeah, that
So,
was an honor ceremony a couple years ago. Sorry, go ahead.
so you got out and you created, I put on there the nonprofit Veterans Business Project. So talk to us
Yes,
about that so some folks can hear about that. I've been talking too much.
sure. I stood up a veterans program at a public university in Missouri some years ago. Some people over there I knew, the head football coach and all that, and they reached out to me, and I said, yeah, I could give you maybe a year and a half, maybe a little longer. So I went out there with the notion that I would support these veterans through the educational process. It boiled down to PTSD counseling. Frankly, we had a lot of people that had seen serious combat, including, as you know, a lot of National Guard folks, infantry, out in these parts where I'm at right now, actually. Making sure they got the proper transfer credits. That's a whole other story going on, and then help them get jobs. But I hadn't been there very long, Mitch, until I started getting a steady stream of people coming in to my office wanting to know how did I start businesses. Word got out I'd been in business, and they wanted to know how that all worked. How did you decide? Where'd you get the money to start your business? Where do you get customers? How do you handle cash flow? All that kind of stuff. This cut across gender, race, MOS, branch of service, age, you name it. It was constant. So still have my law degree. When I came back, I jumped into this fray. Really, it's what it is. In the 9 years following World War II, 49.7% of our veterans ended up in business for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I tell people there's a reason for that. Short story is Audie Murphy would not have been a candidate to kiss any part of any anatomy or any ring to be the VP of sales at Frito-Lay. Audie wasn't going to do that. Audie was a warrior in every sense of the word. We've been at war 20 years. A lot of people have seen a lot of stuff. These are full-grown adult people in every sense. So, fitting in the corporate setting, corporate culture, whatever that kind of is, you can understand why a lot of our veterans post-World War II did their own thing, became the captain of their own rowboat, and did well. The same thing applies today, Mitch. Many of these people would do exactly that. But whereas in the 9 years following World War II, it was much easier to get loans, especially if the federal government was a 50% loan guarantor, which it was for a while. Now that doesn't happen. So we have less than 5% of our veterans that are getting into business for themselves when there should be much, much more. So I jumped in to work on laws so that veterans could get loans. And in the process, started getting a steady stream of people knocking on our door, Veteran Business Project. And these are typically your baby boomers who have raised the kids up, the business fed the kids, so on and so forth. But the kids went to college, they're other part of the country, they don't want a dry cleaning store, and so on and so forth. Mom and dad would like to sell and retire. So word started getting out about us, and so people would call us and ask if we could help them locate potentially a veteran buyer, and we would always say, of course, absolutely, and we would work and do that. And we just called the program loosely the Apprenticeship to Ownership Program. But it was like on the side to begin with. We're still working on legislation. Over time, the demand rose so highly, we pivoted and we went strictly in that direction where we've been now for a few years. And we basically, Mitch, we created what we call the V-Harmony matchmaking program. There's E-Harmony if you want to get a date.
Right.
And then we created V-Harmony for veterans. We match veterans and military spouses looking to be in business for themselves with viable businesses looking to sell. We match them up, and then we assign a success manager to them, and we manage them through the entire process one-on-one, from due diligence all the way through to financing, all the way through to the buy-sell. Currently, there are 11% of our small businesses in America are owned by veterans.
Right.
50% of that group is age 73 and up, and most do not have a succession plan. So we have a real challenge on our hands here in America. We don't want these veterans stores and businesses to go out of business. We need to find buyers and successors for them. So we're very busy these days, very busy.
So how many success stories do you guys have under your belt so far?
Oh, a bunch, a whole bunch. I wish I don't know if you can see this or not. There's actually two guys, Navy guys, that wanted to buy a Chicago fireboat, and we helped them do it.
Really?
Yep, it was an old Chicago fireboat, the Fred A. Bussey, it's called. If you look up Chicago fireboat tours, you'll see that boat. That it's an actual fireboat. It went out of business some years ago, not all that long ago. The Great Chicago, when the McCormick place in Chicago caught on fire some years ago, that was the boat that was out there in the lake that was pumping the water into these various pumping units to help them put out the fire at McCormick place. It had been out of commission for about 15 years. It was used as a tour boat up in Wisconsin. These two Navy guys, sailors, found out about it, came to us. We helped them get financing and work it through on the buy-sell process. And now there
you go.
There it is. Oh, great. Good going, Mitch. That's it. That's the Fred A. Bussey. It goes up and down the Chicago River and then out into the lake. It's a great tour. If you get to Chicago, go there. Anybody, there it is in actual action. And this thing is just part of history. And they just couldn't stand it being anywhere else but in Chicago. There it is in action. So that cannon, those cannons there could shoot, I think it's 17 stories in the air. Jeez. They could fire water up there. Unbelievable. So they bought her and brought her down. And if you're in Chicago, check out Chicago Fireboat Tours. Tell them you know Lynn Lowder, the gang over at Veteran Business Project, and say that we told you to tell them that they were supposed to give you the special veterans rate. And they will. And they will. We've done businesses, we've done dry cleaners, we've done consultancies for people that want to establish consulting businesses. Just almost every kind of business you can imagine.
And so where would I send people? I can put it in the banner. Where do you want me to send people? What address?
Well, thanks for asking. Just go to our website at www.veteranbusinessproject.org. And you'll see a feature on there if you're looking to sell or if you're looking to buy. And we would ask them to register there and express that they're expressing an interest to see if they can locate a business. And we will contact them and go one-on-one with them and see if we can help them figure out what their lane in life is going to be. I'm a slow learner, Mitch, but I'll tell you, many is the time when I've told my wife Sandy, we left the Marine Corps in '83. I wish I would have said to heck with the courtroom, and opened up a Subway in Naperville, Illinois, and worked in that business with my wife and 3 kids. I think we would have had a better quality of life. I chased my tail in law firms for years, building somebody else's company.
Right.
And I tell our veterans, women and men, it's not for everybody, but don't think for a moment that they don't think that they don't have what it takes, because they do. If they decide to commit to it, they can do it. They've got the discipline, they've got the hard work ethic, they've got the grit, team play, and all that. And the point of it is, you're building a nest egg for your future, for you and your family. That's real equity, instead of doing a job. And again, trying to sing somebody else's music, trying to fit into their culture. I'm very direct when I say, Mitch, that I don't think I fully fit in any civilian setting since I left the Marine Corps. I fit in on this call.
Right.
I fit in with you. I fit in with Veteran Business I fit in with our tribe. Those are the people that there's a pure, direct connection with, what we believe in, our values and all that. I mean, you know this to a fairly well. You served many, many years. We have an entirely different expectation of what we're doing, in businesses. And so I encourage our veterans to take a hard look at getting into business for yourself. It may not be in the cards initially, but if you have a dream, a desire to do that, hang with it. Give us a call, and we can have them talk. We'll refer them to people that have actually done it. Like in the Marine Corps, right? If you want to talk to somebody about what combat's like, we'll talk to somebody that's been in combat.
What's a good phone number to call?
I'll give you my personal number. It's 630-222-5155. That's my cell. That's the bat phone. That gets me anywhere.
630-222-5155.
Yeah, 630-222-5155. And if you go on our website, there's a number there too. It's an 800 number of some type. But yeah, this is what we do. This is what we are supposed to be doing. And I want more of our veterans, Mitch, to be successful in life, to become people of means. That way, when these career politicians, both sides of the aisle, get all lathered up, we want to send some people downrange to kick somebody's hind end and break all his crap. It won't be their sons and daughters at Yale and Harvard that will do the fighting. It will be our kids that will do the fighting.
Right.
The point I'm making here is that if Mrs. Rockefeller calls the White House, they'll take her call. We need more of our veterans being successful in business, carrying throw weight. So the next time, and there will be a next time, we need to call people to accountability. What's the game plan? Define victory up front for us. Why this guy over other people? There's a lot of people in this world that should be dead, but why this particular one here? And that's all I'm calling for in accountability-wise. You remember Colin Powell and Schwarzkopf when the Middle East thing was kicking off when they were around. It's the first thing they did. They went to the Pentagon and said, okay, define victory for us. What do you want? None of this nebulous, fuzzy crap. What do you want? And they defined it for them, and they said, all right, then that's what we're going to do. Now, get off to the side. Let us do our work. They control the media, and they control the battlefield, and they brought it in. And so that's the legacy of this old Marine veteran here from Vietnam. In this business here that I've been in, Mitch, there's a book every American ought to read called The Wages of War. It's an out-of-print book, and it was written by two academics, very well researched, and the whole theme of the book is how we have received our veterans back from the Revolutionary War to about 5 years past Vietnam, so when they stopped writing. And I call it the Great American Tragedy. When you read what we have done to our veterans, starting with the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, Civil War, and World War I, the bonus march and all that kind of stuff, the only change of any consequence was World War II. And that was because, in my opinion, you had people from the socioeconomic structure, the wealthy, middle class, everybody, there's a lot more people in the pool. But particularly people that were from the wealthy and the empowered, that made the difference. Mm-hmm. Then comes Korea, then comes Vietnam, and then comes now, where we have less than 0.5 of 1% standing in the gap for everybody in this country. Mitch, think about that. 0.5 of 1% stand in the gap for our country. If that doesn't paint a picture of people that really, truly don't understand that we're in a dangerous world, China is coming on like gangbusters. Russia simply does not respect us. They think we're soft, we're weak, and we're weakening by the day. And you can certainly make that case. So there's going to be a reckoning coming, as you well know. You've been around a long time. It will come. It always does. Freedom is not free. So we need to snap out of it. And
I tell you what I'd like to see. We had more veterans run for Congress and Senate after World War II.
Right.
That experienced it. And then that generation, they're all past and gone. And we have very few combat vets, either side. I don't care what party you run for, but we have very few combat vets that are in Congress. Yes. Ronnie Jackson, who I served with in Iraq, he ran for Congress up here. He got it. I was very happy. You've got a lot of people that are in there that are kind of big names, but we have very few. Then you look at the other side of it and you have some clueless politicians that used to be, say, a former waitress, and how that makes it. You have these ideas about what you want to do, and turn socialism into a great thing. I don't get it, but we definitely, if you hear the sound of my voice out there, guys, if you have any and you're tired of stuff, there are PACs out there that will support veterans to run for office. There are organizations like Lynn's that will take you and make you a successful businessman down the road. Doesn't stop you from running for city council, for mayor, for whatever, but take that and run with it and make action, make things happen, because that's what we do. We run to the sound of gunfire and we make things happen. And that's why I love being around Marines. I love being around soldiers. I served with them over in Afghanistan. Air Force guys, still like a corporation, but I love you guys. Navy guys, I love Navy guys. Coast Guard guys, you never see them until you need them. And the big joke when I joined in the 80s was, you want action, join the Coast Guard. You're not going to see any in the Marines, because the Coast Guard was down there swacking bad guys with 50 cal, drug runners, with 50 cals. I'm like, man, those are the only guys that get action. But no, we need to definitely get more veterans who, because they on recruiting duty, they used to say that the top 10% of the Fortune 500 companies were combat vets. And the reason that they were picked to be CEOs of these companies was because they had to make life or death decisions, snap decisions. They had to take the information that they had to make a decision and run with it. Good, bad, or indifferent, they ran with it. Where if you have somebody that is, oh God, let's break and we'll have a meeting, we'll talk about this and bring this back up. No, that's not going to work, because you got to make snap decisions. And that's where combat vets, whether you're a Lance Corporal leading a patrol out there or a corporal leading a patrol, to an officer leading Marines, these guys have made decisions. And it's not about, like I wrote in the program, it's not about me looking good. It's about taking care of your men, and the team, the success comes to the team.
Yes.
And you saw those guys that if it's all about me, they're going to fall on their swords pretty dang quick. But if it's about taking care of your guys, then your guys are going to take care of you. And
that's a great point. We're inveterate team players. The old saying, right? A Marine fights his battles alone, ends up dead. We are taught that we fight as a team. We're better as a team. In terms of politics right now, back to your point, absolutely, Mitch, I would love to see more veterans get in there. If you're looking at a football field, right, you've got one end zone that's far right and one end zone that's far left down at the other end. And I see most people as probably somewhere clumped in the middle, maybe from 40-yard line to 40-yard line, left and right of the 50. Something like that, maybe 35 to 35, but that's where everybody's at, mostly in the middle, either dead center or left or right of center a little bit, but they're in there. That's the world of compromise and life as it exists. We've all been married. Nobody gets it their way all the time. We all compromise, and thank God we do. Nobody gets it their way all the time. If they do, they're bound to, screw it up.
They're single.
So here we are. And I like our veterans in there because, absolutely, number one, they've worked a real job before. Number two, they know what sweating is all about. Number three, they've worked something that had a lot of risk to it and didn't make hardly anything. And so on it goes. We need them. We need them, without their grit and without their, throw weight in Congress, we're missing an awful lot. I need to tell you something that I found out several years ago. This made me an equal abuser of both sides of the aisle in some regard, and I'll tell you why. I learned some years ago that if you serve one term in the House of Representatives or the Senate, one term, you get, for the rest of your life, a retirement program that pays out about what a lieutenant colonel gets for serving 24 years in the military. And you get a nice medical program, too, on top of that. And not only did they feel they deserved it, because it was unanimously passed, both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, they all passed it. They felt like not only do they deserve it, they felt like that we should pay for it. And so we are. When I heard that, I'm thinking to myself, who are these people? Where do they come from? What planet are they on? Does anybody get a deal like that? It just goes to show you that we got some orientation we need to work on here. And if we ever had a chance to get term limits, which we need desperately in this country, 2 terms and get your hind end out and go back out and get a real job and go to work and pay your taxes and do those things. If we ever had a chance, that's something we really need to work on, in my view. That stops the corruption that comes with it. You see these people that come sometimes to Congress with modest backgrounds financially. They leave very well to do. There you go.
How do you make $170,000 a year and be worth millions?
Yep, absolutely.
Inquiring mind wants to know, but
yep. So, at any rate, I'll get off my soapbox. But
no, you're fine. You're fine. Hey, I want to show you something here. Brian Palmer, you see that? He's a Marine JAG 06.
Okay.
Brian Palmer, Colonel Palmer was my boss over in Afghanistan, and I've never met a harder working man and took more face shots for me and never yelled at me for having to take a face shot from the general because of something Taco Bell did in his crazy hey, I thought it was a good idea at the time, sir. Great man, federal judge now. So very happy to have him on the show.
That says a great deal. That's not by accident. That's for sure. We got some good ones out there. We do. We really do.
Well, if anybody has any questions, we have a few minutes. Pop them up on the comments real quick, and I can ask Lynn. As I said before, I had David Hoffmaster last week, and that's Hero Huts. And so the sea of goodwill out there, people who want to do stuff, he collects all those folks at, say, an event and puts them under a tent. And taking, so that the folks could go in, A, hang out with vets, B, see what's available that maybe they normally wouldn't call to ask for help or see this or that.
Yes.
And then for you, I was reading some of the articles. I Googled some of the articles on your company, and I'm going, that's a great success story. Staff sergeant in the Army opens up a burger joint with his wife, getting the spouses included, working on this from the ground plan all the way through, just like a military operation. You guys are taking it from step 1. Okay, let's go ahead and correlate this. Let's get this, get the plans, get this. Step A, B, C, and D. And oh, by the way, no plan survives first contact. So when this happens and you go left, I need you to, you're gonna go left for a little bit, then I need you to come back right. And you've got mentors built in for them, and it's just fantastic. So I can't thank you enough, sir. I really can't.
My pleasure, Mitch. I appreciate being on here, and thank you for what you've done. Number one, I just did that article, was interviewed for an article on Memorial Day, and people asked me, what should we say other than, thank you for your service? And I tell people, just say, hey, listen, tell them thanks for your courage and stepping up and serving. And oh, by the way, how's it going? Do you have a job? Take it a step further. Find out. And if they don't have a job, or if they got time for a cup of coffee, sit down and talk to them. Veterans, as we all know, we swim in the river of relationships. That's where we operate. We're all about networking and relationships. So just take a little time, talk to them. And if you can hook them up, they need a job, hook them up. Just like they did in World War II. Don't wait for somebody else. Jump in there. They'll do you proud. They'll do you proud.
Well, you're big on LinkedIn. I see you on LinkedIn publishing articles and different things. LinkedIn is, for me, Facebook. I have a lot of people on Facebook, but that's to get the message out. Or if I need something, there's 6 degrees of separation between somebody. I need the phone number to somebody. And there's somebody out there, if I put the word out, that says, oh, I know Lynn Lowder. And hey, here you go, Taco. Here's an introduction. So it to me is an ends to the means. I don't care for the squabbling and the fighting, because it's like wrestling pigs. they get muddy, you get muddy, and they enjoy it. But the arguments on Facebook, nobody's mind has ever been changed. But what I do
No.
like about the professional side of LinkedIn is the positive, all the articles and everything that's on there is a feel good, positive. I need help. Okay, great. Let me help you here. Let's do this. Or, hey, we were able to help these guys out with this mission. I love scrolling through those because that's a glass half full, and no matter what, it's half full and it's positive. Politics aside. So for the most part,
Good point.
it stays apolitical, and I like that. So if anybody wants to call Lynn, give Lynn a shout. Freddie Joe Farnsworth, he's a Marine. He's got your number now. And
Okay.
let's see. Hold on a second. Somebody has a question. Is it normal
Sure.
occurrence for a military veteran to be successful in any given business operation, either alone or by themselves with very few people?
Actually, yes, that does happen. It all depends on the type of business you're in. The principles are always the same in terms of the success. Let me just make a comment about one thing here that I think commonly doesn't get spoken about. And I didn't appreciate this mentioned till much later in life with the veteran here that's calling in with that question. In my era, post-World War II baby boomers, the notion was, hey, work hard, work hard, work hard, put your nose to the grindstone, work hard, you're going to be a success. Well, that's a good habit to have. And then there's the people on Wall Street, and the people at Yale, and the people at Harvard, and the people at the Naval Academy, and the people at West Point, and all that. And what makes them different? Well, first of all, they're bright and they work hard. That's true. But you know what else? It's the network. It's the network. Network trumps hard work in many cases a lot. Mm-hmm. So at age 75 now, I'm an old codger. I have the ability, not that I'm anything, but we've got a number of people on our board and advisory board. There isn't very many people we can't find a way to get to at some point, some way, somehow. So it's a matter of working smarter and sharper. And for all you out there, stay in touch with your veteran buddies, people that you know. It's amazing now what happens as people grow and become, they raise their kids, they get a job there, they get a job over here. I was the chief operating officer for Colt Firearms for a couple of years. That happened because Wayne Rawlings, who was a team leader in First Force Recon, Wayne was a Mustang too, stuck around, became a 2-star general, held the world sit-up record twice, 40,000 consecutive sit-ups. No joke. You can look him up. He worked for General Bill Keyes, who was head of manpower in the Marine Corps for 5 years. General Keyes took over Colt Firearms. Colt Firearms was in real problems with the quality of their weapons and so forth. They'd had a major labor strike and problems. So Wayne, I was coming out of a job in California. My buddy Wayne got a hold of General Keyes and said, hey, I got a buddy of mine who's in Vietnam with. I think he could do you some good out there. I'd never been in manufacturing in my life, but you know what? I read books and I learned. And I went back there, and it was good old Marine Corps small unit leadership 101, getting to know people on a personal basis, going to their homes, going to their churches, spending time with them, and building camaraderie and cleaning up that shop and so forth. The point of it is network. It was Wayne's experience with General Keyes that gave me a chance to go there and to help that company get turned around. Mm-hmm. Everybody that's listening in on here, you have a network. You know your Marine friends and so forth. Keep those networks alive and viable. You help other people. When they need help, that's what we do as veterans. You help them. If you need help, ask them. There's no shame in any of that. You know, we're put on this earth to do two things. We're to love one another as brothers and sisters, and we're to help one another along life's path. At the end of our days, when we die, those are the two things that will have mattered, Mitch. Who do we love and who do we help? We got a good rolling start in the Marine Corps, in the military on that. We cannot succeed in battle unless we help each other. So it's a good template. Do not always help your brethren, always help your brothers and sisters, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
I agree.
Ask for it. Ask for it. That's what we're supposed to do. And by the way, that's what those people at Yale and Harvard do. That's in that club, I learned that. That's a given. Yeah. I may need to get my kid into Yale, so I'll call good old Mitch up. because Mitch is on the board, and they do that. Well,
Right.
guess what? One day Mitch will call me and say, "Hey, Lynn, I need a thus and so," and it's anticipated I'll do that, and I do. If you're wealthy, they are born into that. If you're poor, like a lot of us, we think that that's taking advantage, or you shouldn't do that with a friend. Absolutely wrong thinking. Wrong thinking. Help one another, ask for help, reciprocate. That's what they do up there, and they get results. You're
Right.
veterans. We deserve that. We deserve that option. So help one another, lift each other up. You can't go wrong.
Yep, that's true. And how to win friends and influence people. I always give young officers that book, and I go, if you want to deal with people, how to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie, 1919, is one of
Amen.
the best books on dealing with people. Right, people skills.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
when I showed up in Afghanistan with Colonel Palmer, he sends me over to Camp Eggers, and I'm the Afghan National Police Liaison Officer. So I work between
Ooh.
MOI, Army, INL, Dynacorps, um, different entities, Army, and different entities there. And so I'm always running around all these different things. And the Army guys, unlike us, we all go through OCS, we all go through TBS. And
Mm-hmm.
within about 6 questions, we could probably narrow down. You and I are connected through, that guy. Oh, I went to TBS with that guy. Oh, I went to flight school with that guy. Oh, that guy
Right.
was a buddy of mine. We hung out. We were bunkmates on this operation, blah, blah, blah. So
Mm-hmm.
within 6 questions, you can drill down and find a commonality where
Yep.
the Army was so big. You could be a ROTC guy from National Guard. You could be you could be a National Guard officer. You could be a ROTC guy. You could be West Point. You could be this. You could be that. And you just never know where those guys came from. So when I showed up, I took my little lieutenant book, that little green book, and I went around. I interviewed each Army lieutenant colonel that was my compadres
Mm-hmm.
throughout this base. And I'd sit down with them and I'd ask them questions and whatnot. So then when I'd see him in a meeting, it was like, "Oh man, Bob, how's your son doing? He was the midi. How'd that lacrosse game go?" And the guy's like, "Oh man, they won
Unbelievable.
by blah 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 blah." And then Colonel Palmer can attest to this. I was getting cigars sent to me from a local cigar aficionado club,
Mm-hmm.
and Pop Safari would send me cases of cigars from the military night that they would donate.
Oh, how nice.
So I sent emails out to all these guys, and I'd go, "Hey, choir practice in the Rose Garden." They had this little thing they called the Rose Garden, had some roses, but it had some
Mm-hmm.
benches. And I'm like, "Choir practice at 7:30 on Wednesday night," and or like maybe 2,000, because by that time everybody was pretty much done, but they were staying in the office sending emails back to the wives or whatever. Free
Mm-hmm.
cigars. So all these guys show up
Ooh.
and hand out cigars. So as we sit there and smoke cigars, majors and lieutenant colonels, and we get a few colonels that would come in and join us. We'd have 15 guys. You got more business completed over an hour and a half of smoking cigars, or something like my boss would say. Palmer would say, "Hey, Taco, the general is looking for the new brief for the stand up of this regional training center. Do you think you can try to get a copy of that?" Well, if you just walked up to the Army dude and said, "Hey, man, my boss wants a copy of that thing." Well, no, sorry, can't give it to you. Well, it
Yeah.
hadn't been approved yet or whatever. But if I'm sitting there smoking a cigar, I'm like, "Hey, man, I know you're working on that new RTC, right? How's that going?" "Oh, yeah, we
Sure.
almost got it done." "Have you got the PowerPoint for that thing done?" "Yeah, but it hasn't been approved or anything." "Well, I just want to be able to see it, talk intelligently to my boss. Do you think I could get a copy of that?" "Oh, yeah, sure, Taco. Give me a flash drive." And there I go. And so I write this Intel paper
Mm.
book out for all the people that were over there in positions of authority, in any of the shops. And I wrote
Mm-hmm.
out, okay, this guy, he's from Tennessee, he's from Knoxville, Tennessee, blah, blah, blah. His kid plays soccer, blah, blah, blah. This guy, his wife's into cooking. She has a cooking show. This guy, blah, blah. And I give it to the guy and I go, first of all, they hold their cards very close to their chest. So my replacement, when you go in there,
Mm.
go hang out with them and become friends with them, then you'll be able to get stuff. Well, after I left, I emailed and I'm like, hey, how's my replacement doing? And they're like, that dude's a dick. We don't like that guy, man. He's not like you, Taco. And I go, well, it's not meant to be like me, but I'm hoping he's doing okay. Nah, he comes in here friggin' demanding this and that. We just tell him go pound sand. And I get the Army and the Marine, but I had more fun with those guys. We had a good time, and I always figure wherever you go, make your place better than it was, and leave it better than it was, and take care of your people and have fun, and say hello to the trash man. If you know the trash man's first name, when you forget to take your cans out that morning, he goes over there and grabs them and pulls them out.
Absolutely.
So anyway, it's all about taking care of people, which you do, sir, and I can't thank you enough for your busy night, because I know you drove down, you're in the hotel, and you've got work going on probably till midnight after I get off here with you. But
a couple hours. But I'm honored to be here, Mitch. Thanks for having me on. And again, call me anybody, anytime, and I'll give you the benefit of a lot of screw ups and mistakes I made along the way. We want to make it better for other people. So happy to help out in any way I can.
Brian's wife there. Thank you, Mr. Lowder, for your service helping military veteran spouses. Taco, wonderful interview. I love it. Thanks, guys. And we got this one this is an old flight instructor of mine, Jim Bowman. Great podcast, Mitch. Lightning. Keep up the good work. I love it. Let's see. We got this.
Can't believe somebody actually listened to me talking tonight. That's pretty amazing.
No. You got it. Speaking of all that are all commissioned Marines trained at OCS. Yes, all Marines go through OCS. I went through the PLC program, which is 2 summer 6-week courses.
Yeah.
And you either do that or you do a 10-week course, or your Naval Academy, and I think they still do a 6-week Bulldog, they call it, or some if they're ROTC, Marine Option ROTC or something. But we all do that. And Annapolis folks, we don't get West Point. West Point people don't come to the Marine Corps. They're very anal about being Army. We do, on the other hand, have options where Air Force Academy, if there were, say, 4 Air Force Academy guys that want to be a Marine, and there were 4 Navy guys that want to go fly for the Air Force, they could do an inter-service swap. It was 1-for-1, and they could swap spots. As long as the commissioning got done, they can swap spots. So we had Air Force and Navy swapping from the academies and becoming Marines. And we also had Merchant Marine Academy. Those guys could option to be Marine officers, and their commissioning source was MMA. And then pretty much that was it. So, and then we all Marines go through the basic school, the Big Suck, TBS, where you sit out in Quantico for about 4 months of your life. You're living Monday through Friday out in the woods, and you practice squad, unit leadership, platoon leadership, company maneuvers, and you're doing all sorts of stuff to put you in different billets. Every Marine is a rifleman. Before I put on my green, my gold wings as an aviator, I put on green trousers, and so did Lynn. So every Marine's a rifleman, and there are many examples where aviators got shot down, especially in World War II at Wake Island. I'm having a mind block. It'll come to me. He got shot down. He lands on the beach, crash lands as a Hellcat on the beach, jumps out, runs up to the trench line. He's seen where the Japanese are coming in on their landing craft, and he goes, "Where's the officer?" And they go, "Oh, he's dead." Then who's in charge? And they look at him and they go, "You, sir." No officers, you're it. And he's like, "Okay, do you have the machine guns ready?" "Yes." "All right, they're all coming from here. I need you to put the machine gun field of fire over here, and you get the machine guns going over here. You guys get the ammo, all good on ammo. You got, and so you rush into action. And that's what differs, I think, most Marines from other services is, aside from the guy from Wolverines. What was that movie? He's an Air Force guy, got shot down. He joined the young high school kids, and they Red Dawn, and they went out and took on the Russian army. He did pretty good in combat, I thought, for an Air Force guy. But
that Semper Fi spirit you talk about, Mitch, if you ask a general, "Who are you?" he's going to say, "I'm a Marine." If you ask a private, "Who are you?" he or she'll say, I'm a Marine. We're Marines, first and foremost, Marines. And, every Marine, a rifleman and all that, I tell people, go out and drive any day of the year. Go out and drive around your city. You will see a Marine Corps sticker, the Eagle Woman Anchor, on a car. You will. How many times do you see an Air Force, a Navy, Coast Guard, Army, so forth? Nothing against, so I love those guys, all of them. But you would think the Marine Corps is 20 million strong. That's what nobody does the work on the inner person like the Corps does. We just do. And yep. Keyes and I, General Keyes and I, we were out Colt. We'd meet, at night talking about various things. And he used to comment about some of our most incredibly loyal Marines were those young enlisted guys that came in and did one tour in the Corps and then they left. They just live, eat, breathe Marine Corps. It's where a lot of us grew up. It's where we were offered a chance to be a man or a woman. We grew up, and we learned an awful lot. I'm just so grateful I stumbled to the deal.
It's funny. You were talking about that one tour. We had this Marine who was on Iwo Jima for 2 days, right? So he lands, he gets wounded, he's in a foxhole. They end up pulling him out, put him on the ship next day, and he's recouping on a ship. So he's in the Marine Corps or on Iwo Jima for 2 days. He gets out, comes back, he goes to school, becomes an Air Force officer, retires as a colonel. We get him as the guest speaker for a birthday ball, and the CEO goes, he's reading his bio, and he goes, I thought this guy retired as a Marine colonel. I go, no, sir, he was a E1, but if you ever saw him, George Alden was always in his red Marine Corps League jacket with the patch and his Iwo Jima survivor hat. He was always the Marine. He wasn't. He never told anybody he was Air Force.
I'll be darned.
I mean, he just wouldn't talk about it. He talked about being a Marine, and he always hung around Marines. So you get one tour. We did a bicycle ride across Iowa called the Ragbri every year. And so Team Marine, I was part of Team Marine Corps. It was a recruiting function. And we would ride a bicycle all the way across Iowa. Well, every little town you go through, of course, there's a flagpole with an American flag and a Marine Corps flag. Yeah. And the first year we're camping in this campground with 15,000 of our favorite friends, getting no sleep. So the next year I thought, aha. And I wrote the Chamber of Commerce and I said, Team Marine Corps is looking for Marine Corps sponsors in the town, in your town to sponsor Team Marines. Well, those guys were beating each other up. I mean, like, I've got these guys. Oh, I've got these guys. And we'd show up and they're cooking T-bones and ribeyes. And, we camped on their lawns. We had makeshift showers set up and we were happy as pigs in mud. It was great.
That's wonderful.
But that's just middle America driving around and you see that. So
it really is true. Absolutely true.
Well, I tell you what, I've kept you for an hour and a half, sir, and I'll let you go. But I can't thank you enough for joining us. And everyone's got your phone number, your personal phone number. Guys, do not call him at 2 a.m.
No,
you'll get shot. I'll shoot you.
It's been a real honor, Mitch. Thank you for all you've done. You're serving and then and now, by the way. And anybody that is thinking about business, by all means, give me a call and we'll talk and see where it goes from there.
You bet.
Thanks for all you're doing, Mitch. Semper
Thank
Fi,
you,
brother.
Sir. Hey, tell your wife Sandy, thanks for letting us borrow you tonight.
I will. She puts up with a lot.
It sounds like my wife and your wife get along well. You take care, sir. Hoorah. Hey, folks, thanks for staying with me. Hour and 35 minutes. It was a fantastic night. Freddie Joe, I see you. Hiram, I see you. Bill, Wayne, I see you. Brian, you guys are awesome for sticking around that long. Another Tall Tales with Taco. And guys, we're going to have a fun one next week. I'm bringing F-14s back into the picture. You guys will have a good episode on that one. So come back and join us next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. as always, unless I get banned on Facebook again for anything I said that offended anyone. So just in advance, if I offended you, Facebook, pound sand. I don't care. But anyway, I love you guys. Have a great one. Adios. Hasta luego. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss. Shesheni. Au revoir. Domo arigato gozaimasu. And I am going to leave you with this one.